Hola, senores, for you Diogo Jota lovers. I think that's Spanish, but whatever. We are here and we are just talking about one thing, one key topic this week. It's the game week of Double Trouble. Double Game Week 25, Blank Game Week 26. We have some key questions that we're going to be answering. So it's a little bit different from a normal show. We're going to be basically just purely focusing on Game Week 25, 26, with a touch on 29 and looking at the key questions for the up and coming game weeks, because I think I'm maybe right in saying, is this the most important part of the season so far? The biggest divergence of plans and players and chips and hits, and this is like the biggest moment of the season so far. So that's what we're going to be chatting about in FPL today. So less of the usual, more of a bit of a special, and we're all here. The whole FPLIQ panel is here today, joined by Ryan Football Chatbox, FPL Planner Tien, and Teacher FPL Lucian. So first, before we get in, quick hello, Ryan. How you doing, bud? Good week so far?
Good week so far. Another green arrow, which is good. Now I get into the point where I've had maximum 2 green arrows before I get my red, and that has continued the entire season. So I've got 2 green arrows now. So we'll see whether I actually make history for this season or whether I go back to a red.
Yeah. Now, I've gone from 300k to 900k in 3 weeks. It's killing me. It's killing me inside. Tien, you must be having a better time than I am. Not a great time, though. I did see you had your hefty red isn't compared to mine, but it's still hefty, right?
It's almost there. My rank almost double after one game, after the Arsenal game. Like basically, it went from 20 plus 25% green to like 100% red. But anyway, it's I had better game weeks. I think I'm same with Ryan. I still haven't got more than 2 green arrows in a row all season.
Yep.
So we'll see.
I sound like I hate
This is a turning point.
And I don't. I love him as a player. He's a fantastic player, but he has destroyed me this season since I sold him on like the Game Week 8 wildcard, and I hate it. So, Lucian, finishing us off here. Teacher FPL, how you doing? You having any more success than we are?
新年快乐, everybody.
新年快乐.
I'm just glad that both my daughters have recovered from a fever over the festive period. That for me is better than any red or green arrow that I get, because honestly my rank is irrelevant right now. But I'm pretty sure everyone's going to be interested in my starting 11 later on, which we will talk about. Yeah.
And so we're going to get straight into it, guys. The first question on the slide. Now it's really funny. I made the Google slides with the question, and then I've opened it, and these guys all made it a lot better. So I'll just say that I made the slides and the questions and stuff, but I did no graphic design whatsoever. I literally just wrote the questions out, and these guys, I did the pictures this time because I'm back at work today, and they jumped in. So we're not really a graphic show. We're like chatting about FPL and our ideas and plans and stuff. But yeah, they've done a good job this week because I didn't see this before. They've actually, look, they've put the little buttons in there. I just wrote it, but they added the little buttons. Who added it? Who added the little buttons here?
Buttons.
Who was triple captain and bench boost?
Yeah,
not me.
That's me.
Yeah, there's good stuff going on here, guys. Well done. I'm impressed.
Just showcasing my print screen skills,
Yeah.
Just print screen.
No,
control
don't
V.
reveal the secrets. Don't reveal the secrets. There's trade agreement going on here. So the first question that we're going to touch on slightly, because it does affect some managers are thinking of both of these, is triple captain versus the bench boost in game week 25. So we're going to try and not, blather on too long. So straight off the bat, I'm just going to say Tien and I don't have a bench boost, right? But for the argument of this, we have a bench boost, okay? I would still for sure say at this point now, I would play the triple captain because you've got the Salah double home game or a Liverpool good 2 fixtures as well. And I think if you've held the bench boost for this long, and you've still got a wild card especially, you can just throw it on a game week 34 or 37 for doublers. I know you might have a Gabriel away to Burnley sat on your bench. You might have even a Saka away to Burnley. That it's always team dependent, and I might be persuaded, but at the end of the day, in game week 34, you've held it this long, you're probably going to have an entire squad to bench boost because we've got cheap players like Gordon and Palmer, really cheap enablers that if they're stuck on your bench for that week, they're going to have a double. But that's just my opinion. Of course, if you sat there with 3 City, 3 Liverpool, 2 Brentford and all that lot, I would get the bench boost. But if you're looking at like your generic team, I would say triple captain because Haaland's got the fixtures right in front of him at home. That's all I'm going to say on that. So, Ryan, what are your thoughts on TC versus BB?
For me, triple captain. But even my team, I look at my bench and I'm like, is that clean sheets on that bench? There's going to be another 25-pointer like a couple of weeks ago on that bench, possibly. The only reason I would bench boost is if you wildcarded in game week 24 and you set your team up for a bench boost this week. I know a mini league leader who wildcarded last week, and I look at his squad and I know what he's doing. He's playing the bench boost this week because he just stacked and set up for that bench boost. So it's going to be his bench boost versus the rest of everyone else below him and their triple captains this week. But that's the only reason I would bench boost if you've already wildcarded in 24 and you set your team up. But otherwise, triple captain for me, because 1, Haaland, 2 home fixtures. I don't know if you'll get that again. And at the same time, I don't know if you'll get Haaland with Foden being fit, KDB being fit, all of these players there to supply him. I don't know if you'll get that. You might get lucky and get a Salah double somewhere later when Salah is fit, but we don't know what the fixture will be like. You could also get a Sun double later, which will include Chelsea and someone else, but who knows what Spurs' form will be at. And I think Spurs' fixtures during that time is also a very tough run, so they might be in some other issues that they might not want to be thinking about at the moment. But so it's just there. I'm going to play it. And I feel like this time Haaland's double is significantly better than last time's Haaland's double, where last season his double wasn't that great, even though people were still pushing the agenda of go for the double. I went Rashford triple captain at that point. And at that point, I was more confident going Rashford because he had the form as well and he had the fixtures. This time, if you're not triple captain in Haaland and you want to be different for the sake of being different, the only one that you could probably put it this specific week might be KDB because of the stature of KDB. But even then, we don't know you're going to get enough minutes from KDB. So there isn't too many competitions. And then you have Solanke, but we've seen Bournemouth just tail off. So that's like a Dennis, but slightly upgraded version.
Just touching on Haaland's minutes, though, there is news that his grandmother sadly passed away. But Reddit is the community that, if you think FPL Twitter is crazy, you guys have no idea what Reddit on FPL is like. They've been researching funeral rites and dates on there and finding out about like there's no funerals on the weekend and it's a 10-day grace period and all this lot. But something to think about. FPL Freddy in the chat, he's also said triple captain for game week 25 unless you wildcard last week and have so many doubles, which is similar to the point that that I myself made as well. Tien, what are your thoughts then on the bench boost versus the triple captain?
Yeah, pretty much agree with what he said. So there's people that wildcard in 24 that specifically set up for the bench boost. I think unless there's significant sort of injuries to the team, I think you could certainly push ahead with that because otherwise without the wildcard later on, it would.
Did we lose Tien? Or
he's frozen.
You look so so peaceful with the eyes closed.
I know. Bless. He needs a rest. We'll move on to Lucian then, just for your point. Lucian, triple captain or bench boost?
Well, beyond stating the obvious, I have to reiterate the nature of FPL, where if the signs are obvious and the signs are there for you to do the obvious thing, please do the obvious thing. Yes, unless you have deliberately differentiated yourself, which is really difficult to do, even without using a wild card. Yeah, just I think the only thing I can offer, at least from a personal experience sort of perspective, is that I do not have benching headaches. because I have sold Saka, I have sold Palmer, and my bench is crap because I own all three elephants and Phil Foden right now, and I feel like when funny thing. Sorry guys, sorry for going off on a tangent. I played 5-a-side once during my Luna New Year break, and I'm still recovering. That was like a week and a half ago, and my muscles still feel like they're held together by toothpicks. And that's my FPL team right now. I have so many 4.5 million players in my starting 11. I'm just grateful I had McAtee come off my bench for Clivert with his 7-pointer. That was the difference between a green and a red arrow for me.
You must be the only FPL manager that happened to this week. You must be. I don't think I could name anyone in the entire world who's just had McAtee come off the bench for Clivert. That's amazing. You mustn't have any clones either, right? No, you have no copies of your team. You mustn't. There's no way. There's no way. We'll have to check that later. Live FPL, we'll have to check.
10 million is too small of a sample.
Yeah, too small sample. Tim, we'll go back to you after you had that little reset. Triple captain and bench boost?
Am I back? Okay. Yeah, no, it's triple captain. Obvious. Yeah, unless you specifically set up for the bench boost with the wildcard 24. So yeah, just a quick note to for anyone who's thinking like comparing the two chips. I think you shouldn't compare the bench boost and the triple captain. You compare the bench boost now with a potential bench boost in the future game week, and the triple captain now compared to a future triple captain game week. So if you don't believe Haaland is the best triple captaincy this week and you think there's a better option later, then yeah, by no means wait for that better option. Similarly, if you set up for the bench boost and any kind of getting cold feet because of triple captain, just think about whether you can have a maybe slightly worse but still comparable option for triple captaincy in the future, and see whether there's any opportunity for bench boost later. Because if it's very well set up for the bench boost, yeah, I think you just go ahead with that. But yeah, otherwise, triple captain.
Cool. Also, just I think that's a really good point, and I just want to reiterate that don't cross compare the chips. Compare bench boost now and 34 and triple captain now and the future as well. I think that's a really, really good point. So, and it's what I said about why triple captain is better now. I know you might look at Burnley if you're not benching Saka and Gabriel away to Burnley and then a rubbish goal. You probably got Areola away at City, which you're not happy about, and then maybe another defender who you're not that bothered about. You should compare that to having 4 doublers on the bench. Like, that's the comparison you need to make, not triple captain versus bench boost. And I think, Tim, was it you who put the overall chip usage graph in here?
Oh no, that was me.
That was you. Do you want to just explain what this graph is showing?
Yeah, so I added the overall chip usage. I could have added the top 10k as well, but the top 10k triple captain is significantly less. It's like 15 or less than 15%, but the bench boost is very similar for the top 10k as well. So that means a lot of managers. I took the overall sample because a lot of us are all in different ranks, and that kind of shows where everyone's played the chips. Bench boost is significantly maybe higher, which kind of tells us that there is more opportunities this season to play the bench boost. It's very team dependent. Now you guys have already played it when you decided that it's good for you. I know a few others also who have played it and come up with really good scores. So it's all very team dependent, and you might get more opportunities later down the line as well to play the bench boost. Triple captaincy, on the other hand, you don't get that many opportunities to play. So it's very selective, and I feel like we'll see after this game it goes, but the triple captaincy probably might rise significantly, and then that will tell you where the rest of the competition is in terms of how many chips they have left and all of that.
I like this as well. It worries me about the bench boost. There's a lot of bench boost left, and obviously I played it already, but it worked out for me, I believe, at the time when I played in Game Week 1. But what I do like to see is triple captain already over their 20% and free hit almost at 20%. You know, if you've got both of those chips, then especially with me down at 900k or whatever, this gives me a little bit of hope. So let's move on to our next point, which is how many doublers are enough, with the second side question of how about when you talk about hits. So I'm just going to go for a straight up number, and I'm going to go off the idea that you've not used a wild card, the second wild card. Because if you've used a wild card, you've probably got a lot of doublers. Because if you don't, why did you wild card? I'm going to just literally say 5. I think that if you've got 5 doublers in your 11, I think that's a sweet spot that covers several scenarios. So, for example, I think 3 Manchester City players is just a given because they double and they don't blank, right? I think that's just simple. So that gives you 2 more to play with. Now, the reason why I think 5, so 3 from City, I think is set for me. If you go 2 from Liverpool, then Game Week 26 is easier to get around because you might have a Porro or a Palmer, but you won't have any Luton because that would be included in the doubles that you have. If you have Brentford, then they don't blank, which is great, and you can deal with it as well. But 5 just feels like a good number because it means that you've got the quality of the players that you want from the double game week without having to have bad future players that you don't want after this double game week. So if you're sat there with like 2 Brentford and 2 or 3 Luton and 2 Liverpool, game week 26 is going to be difficult because you're going to have a lot of blankers. Or up until you wildcard, you're going to be stuck with 4 or 5 players from 2 teams that you don't want to have players from for that long. So I just think 5 is enough where if the rest of your team is all right as well, you are competitive enough to not just have a good crack at the double game week, but to not sacrifice too much for the blank game week 26 and not have a bad team going on for 27, 28, 29 and so on. So I just think 5's the sweet spot that if you've got 5, you can think, all right, I'll do okay this game week. Small side note, small caveat. If you have 5 and, you know, you get, let's say you get 80 points, right? And you end up with a red arrow because a lot of people got 90 or 100 points. Don't take game week 25 as the final score of what has happened, because you might have people that score 100 in game week 25 and score 20 in game week 26 because they've played 5 players, right? So I will personally look at game week 25 and game week 26 and combine those scores together to figure out if my plan was correct or not. Because a lot of people were like, oh, I got 90 and I've still got a small red arrow. And then game week 26, they'll get a huge green arrow because all the people that beat him in 25 didn't have a good squad overall. So yeah, so just for the first part then, Ryan, how many doublers would you say to people, you know, that's a okay?
So if you can go to the next slide, I think that I added. So I've taken that from Live FPL. Basically, there are 2 slides. One which shows you how many double game because most people have in the top 100k next week, and another which shows how many single game because so you kind of know your competition as well, who you're playing against. Not that we want you to go and load up on double game because this week, but you kind of need to be aware of like who the good single game because are as well. So basically, I've unchecked Trent in this because he's injured. He's going to be out. Before that, there were about 4.6% of managers that had a double game week. But now there's only 4.2% of managers who have a double game week. 4.2 players, not 2%. 4.2 players in the top 100k. So that's about 2.5 City, 1 Liverpool, and a sparkles of Luton somewhere, Brentford somewhere, stuff like that. So you're expecting people, like you mentioned, 5, maybe 4 now, and with the 1 free transfer, 5, or potentially at best people might have 5 and go with one free transfer to a 6. Is where we're thinking most managers will be at. So between 5 to 6 is a sweet spot if you can be anywhere there. Anything more means you probably wildcarded earlier and you've set your team up that you have significantly more. And even if you do have significantly more, I probably sometimes question the quality of those significant others, which is why I added the next picture of the single game week fixtures to show you who you're competing against by having multiple double game weekers. Because you could have either Luton or Brentford doubles, but you're competing against the likes of a Saka who has Burnley at home, Gabriel who has Burnley at home. You could have Watkins who has Fulham, I think, this week. So they've got good single game week fixtures as well. So just to give an idea of who people are competing against and how many people have right now.
That's a really good chart, that, Ryan. That's really, really good. You said that was live FPL you did that on?
Yes. So that it takes basically the top 100k that it chose, and it's showing you what people have at the moment.
So it's currently 4 in the top 100k, but it could likely go up to 5 or 6, which is...
Yes, I went through the other ranks as well, like 200k, 300k, 400k, but everything was like 4.2, 4.3, 4.4. So it increases a bit more at the lower ranks. So the lower rank managers have slightly more doubles prepared compared to the top 100k. But yeah, it's still roughly 4 to 4.5 that people have.
And we'll come back to those singlers later because that's a future question. But I really like that. I think that's really, really useful to... I was just putting what I felt a good number was, but this is what Ryan has found in the top 100k, which is sort of the target we look at, right, for general data. And, you know, that is literally telling you right now exactly how many double game week players and managers will have. So I think that's fantastic. Tien, how about you? What are your thoughts on what's a good number of doublers for you?
So really good chart here, Ryan. So I think I agree with you. You won 5, and those 5 should be from City and Liverpool. And then anything on top of that is more like a bonus. You know, you may happen to have one, or you have a free transfer that you want to attack the game. That's fine. But yeah, I think it's more about quality than quantity. So if you got 5, 3 from City and 2 from Liverpool, that's really good. Adding anything more on that, it's just a bonus, and it looks like everyone is heading that way by the look of it, because those 2.5 or something of City will become 3, and then those 1 point something of Liverpool will become 2. But yeah, at quality over quantity. If you have 4, but if you have the best 4, then I think it's still okay. It's still better than 6, with like 3 really poor players. So yeah.
Yeah, like I know I brought in Doherty, one Luton player, but I mean, look, I even said to you guys in the chat when I was watching it, I was like, I know they're getting beat here and it's not great, but this guy's putting some crosses and passes in. And I think I saw Statman Dave after say it was like the most attempted passes or assists or something in the Premier League so far this season.
Most chances created in a single game.
Yeah, 9 or something. So even though they got beat and he didn't get anything from it, like I didn't walk away from that thinking, oh no. But again, so Tien's point, quality over quantity, I completely agree. One Luton player, but remember, the people that brought Luton in, it's not just game week 25, it's also double game week 28, right? So that's another thing to consider. The likes of Brentford, they've got a tough double game week and then just single game weeks, right? But Luton having double might sway people to just bench them in the singles and play them in the doubles. Lucian, what's your thoughts then on how many doublers do you think is a good number?
Well, I think what we will talk about soon really links to my answer, because I personally feel that with the Trent injury news happening so suddenly, I feel that half of us will be on 4 doublers and half of us will be on 5 doublers. And I think for each of those two scenarios, it's important to understand that, that like if you're gonna sell Trent for Virgil van Dijk, that does not sit well with me. I'd rather punt on a Luton fullback, and play for the longer term, because yeah, it's like owning Virgil van Dijk, not just for this week, but for the next 2 to 3, I don't know what have you, just doesn't sit right. I mean, I'd rather go further down to Trippier and just deal with the single game weeks, right? I completely agree with Tian. Quality over quantity, and for me, besides uh Salah and 3 Man City players, right? Everyone else is dispensable, even Alfie Doughty. Um, because sorry, I have to say his full name because Rob made it sound like he bought Wolves Doherty. But yeah, at this stage, I do feel that it's very important to understand that you should not look at the players you purchase in isolation. Like whoever you have right now, this double game week is only like the beginning of the chaos. It's very likely that the 3 Man City players you have right now are going to be the 3 Man City players that you'll keep, even through the 29 blanks. Because everyone's gonna have 3 Man City players through the blanks anyway. I mean, no one in their right mind would sell Man City, and most of us, like myself, we'd all probably free hit on 29 anyway. So I'd say that at this stage, um, yeah, don't just look at the double game week. Like, sure, it's healthy to have 4 or 5 players, but as Rob rightly said, right, it's likely that if you have a lot of doublers now, you're gonna have a few blanks later. And so the idea of this whole thing trying to figure out a golden number, right, actually just means that instead of having 20 fixtures over 2 games, we're just gonna have like, a 15-7 or a 14-8. And they all add up to be the same anyway, unless you take crazy minus balls like me. So I'd say just stick to the players you believe in. So I'm not just gonna push quality that Tian says. I really mean it in the sense that you don't buy a Liverpool player for the sake of it. And if you're gonna buy somebody like Doughty, you're gonna need to believe in him, believe in his quality, so that if you do decide to bench him or to sell him, at least you know why, rather than bringing somebody like, I don't know, Luis Diaz in, and if he doesn't perform over the double game week, you'd be like, what is he doing here? All right, I followed the cryptocurrency hype, you know, and yeah, so please believe in the players that you are going to buy over the next few, because they're going to be stuck with you for a while.
I think my only argument against that is it always feels like every double game week a centre back becomes a hero, like a John Stones, and this just screams like a Virgil van Dijk 2 clean sheets, 2 goals kind of game week. I don't know why, but it always feels that's the way. So how about hits? Now, my team is a bit of a mess, and it does get pointed out by the FPLIQ panel about how I've still got hold of the likes of Diaby. Look, I've tried to sell him, but how many hits do you think people should be or have taken to prepare for this double and blank game week? So my easy answer for this one is honestly not many, especially if you're looking at wildcarding in like game week 30. It doesn't feel right to take sort of -12s or -16s just to try and take an advantage of a small double game week where a lot of your rival managers will probably have 2 or 3 Liverpool and or City players. So you're really taking all these hits for Brentford and Luton who have blanks themselves. And when we talk about are we overlooking single game week players, like you were also hitting out players that might have good single game weeks, and Tien's argument of quality over quantity, if you're hitting out Saka for a -4 who only has 1 fewer game but better fixtures and better form for a Brentford midfielder, like what's the point? So in terms of hits, I will probably have taken a -8 from game week 22 to get me through to game week 27. I think a -8 over like 3-4 game weeks is fine, but I think if you're just doing really short-term hits of like a 12 or like an 8 that just sorts you out for this week, and then you're still pretty much stuck, I don't think that's a good idea. So I think 8 feels like a good 5 doublers, -8 in hits to sort everything out. That's in and outs, not just -8 to bring him in. Game week 25. Oh no, game week 26. I've got 6 players. Like the whole getting through. That's what I'm thinking about that. Ryan, what are your thoughts about what hit number or hit ideas would you suggest?
So in general, I like to look at hits individually, not as a collective number, because sometimes you have to be forced into making certain moves due to injuries or not. Like now, where Trent is a move that we probably didn't expect to do, but now we're doing. So that involves a hit, unfortunately, because you're not going to just remove Trent. You're probably going to use that money somewhere to bring in. Now I'm going to use that money to bring in the likes of a KDB. So I'm looking at a -4 at the moment, and then in 26, I wouldn't need to take a hit. I'll just do one free transfer and I can get 11 players out. So over the 2 game weeks, I'm looking at -4. But I also did a hit last game week to prepare for this game week. So over 3 game weeks, I've taken a -8 technically. I don't mind people taking a -8 this week. Again, it depends. Who are you bringing in? Who are you selling? If you're selling a bad player for a good player, then I don't mind it. If you're selling a good player to try and get in another good player, then I kind of question it, because then the player you're bringing in, I look at it as a way that they have to score the hit price as well of 4 points above the player that you just took out. So if like people are selling a Saka to try and bring in a KDB, then you're like, yeah, is it really worth it? Stuff like that. But -4 seems like a decent number. -8 also I don't mind, but it depends on what you're doing actually, specific moves.
Jen, how you feel about hits?
I would go a step further and say treat your every single free transfer as a hit. So value it as a 4 point. Because the thing is, like, you might think that, oh, I have free transfers, I make the free transfer, right? I don't have anything to lose. But then that free transfer, if it's not used wisely, it will mean a hit, in a few game weeks anyway. So for example, people like Solanke and Watkins are the top 2 transfer out at the moment, above Trent as well. So Solanke, like, if you sell Solanke, then you know that you're gonna need to get him back by game week 28. So that's a book transfer. So if you don't take a hit now, you probably need to take a hit then. If you don't, because obviously there are other moves that you need to plan, right? But yeah, so that's the thing, and Watkins as well. Like, people probably selling Watkins for Darwin this game week. They might even reverse that move straight away in 26. And normally with other problems, you'll probably involve a hit as well. So I'm similar to Ryan. I took a -4 last game week as well to bring in KDB and Doughty already. So that was already preparing for this double, right? So now I'm sitting pretty well with 2 doublers with that -4. But then obviously the Trent injury sort of came out of nowhere. So I was planning to roll, but then now I think I'm going to sell him. And similar to Ryan, I'm not going to just sell him to a Virgil van Dijk, because I don't believe in him either. Like what Lucian said, I'm going to use that money to upgrade elsewhere. Then that is the -4, but I think it's a worthwhile -4. As long as you know what you're getting, you believe in the players that you're getting in, and you know what the plan looks like, at least for the next 4 or 5 game weeks, in terms of like, okay, is that going to be a problem for my team that I need to transfer straight away? That then treat that as a -8 in itself. That's 1 in, 1 out. That's -8 already. But if it's a player like, if you get a City player that that will play the double, play 26, you can hold it for at least 3 or 4 game weeks, and that's perfectly fine, because that -4, will get paid off straight away. So yeah, I agree with Ryan that don't give a hard number and say, oh, I'm not gonna go -8 or -12. Just treat every single transfer by itself, and give a value for your free transfer as well, so that you you will, you don't take them lightly. So personally, I'm looking at -4. But yeah.
Yeah, good, nice. Lucian?
Sorry. Okay, first and foremost, please do not emulate my strategy. Because the doublers I have right now, Alan, KDB, Foden, Mohamed Salah, Trent. Got all of them. And so I'm supplementing them with Alfie Doughty, Reguilon, most likely Clivert or McAtee, depending on who I feel will do better. And
At
Ollie Watkins.
-20 or something.
Oh yes, and sorry, I've got Gabriel at the back against Burnley too. So all this, no hits. I did not take a single hit to line this up. I saved the transfer in 23. But I had to downgrade Odegaard. Amazing, right? To downgrade Odegaard, I had to downgrade Palmer, I had to downgrade Pedro Porro, and that's how it is, right? So with this type of strategy, I am, personally gonna be trying to run with this and survive the blanks. But yes, the reason I'm doing this personally is only because I plan to downgrade the likes of Trent, depending on how long his injury is. Pick up people like Trippier and all that. Like, yes, I will buy Newcastle and all that soon. I will buy Son as well soon, depending on when the double is. All those obvious things aside, right? In terms of doublers that people should be getting, oh wait, we're talking about doublers, right? Yes. So in terms of doublers themselves, so first things first, yeah, I wanna touch on Brentford a little bit because I think, put it this way, whatever strategy you are on, you compare yourself to the active, engaged manager on Twitter or whatever social media platform. They are also going to have 3 to 4 doublers anyway. So the real question is, besides the obvious 3 Man City players and whoever you replace Trent Alexander-Arnold with, who else are you willing to get on top of that combination? Because for me, it's not about counting the doublers, it's actually counting the Liverpool plus Luton players. That's what I feel is the most important part of the equation. If you have 4 or 3 Liverpool plus Luton, then you're okay. I think that's really the real clean bill of health for me. So that also directly answers the -4 situation. I would only take a hit if I am not able to sustain and a playing 11 this week as well as next week. Because the moment the Trent injury news came out, I just realized that I don't even want to buy a single game weeker. So I replaced another of my liabilities, Medicash, with Reguilon because I'm expecting him to come in. But it's purely a philosophical thing where you play for the super long term and you did end at 29 or 30 where possible. So yeah, I do believe that you need to establish a core philosophy for yourself, how far ahead you want to plan. Because if you're like an 8-week planner like Rob, then you should be, making transfers that last like 6 to 8 weeks and you look at who's not part of your plan, at least in terms of your starting 11. So, it just applies to whatever you feel fits and has synergy with your strategy first. And then you pick from the teams like Luton or whoever it is that fits your style. Yeah, so that ends my point.
Okay, now my daughter requires you singing. All right, so just I think we've kind of touched on this anyway, but top game week 25 players to prioritize. I think Haaland, Foden, KDB are going to be up there. But for price wise, I think now with Guardiola, a lot of people are going to be looking at Ake. I think that's fair because I've got Bernardo Silva and unsure if he's going to play. And instead of me going to another midfielder like Doku, I could be persuaded to go to a different midfielder and then go from Porro to Ake and use my Bernardo transfer on somebody else. maybe even a Liverpool player, or a Brentford player. I don't know. Definitely not Saka. I can't afford it, even if I wanted to anyway. But yeah, that was something I was thinking about. It was actually Hwang Hee-chan, or maybe even Gordon, because Wolves were in my future plans anyway. But that's just going to have to wait on injury news. But 3 City, I think whichever 3 you choose, you're fine. Like, I think that they're all great choices. Brentford, I would just be looking at Tony and Reguilon. Luton, I would only be looking at Alfie Doughty. And Liverpool, I've got Salah and I've held him all this time. If he didn't get injured, I don't want to do that whole like ifs and buts game, but I held him. Unfortunately, he got injured. He could be back. I'm going to wait for team news. I'm going to have to hold my transfers because I think Liverpool's going to be the early game. It's the first game. So I'm just going to have my transfers lined up for if Salah is on the bench. And if Salah's on the bench, I'm probably going to go like Salah to Jota and Bernardo to KDB, something like that, because that gives me the 2 big hitters. There's no point in me bringing Salah in. I know I've held him all this time, but if he's going to be on the bench for the double game week and I've got transfers to make, I can't hold it any longer. And he's going to blank next week as well, so what's the point? And I can always just bring him back in a couple of game weeks with 2 free transfers, right? But apart from that, from Liverpool, I'd be just looking at Salah, Darwin, and Jota. And in order, it would be, if fit, Salah, Jota, Darwin. And I do have Darwin as well. So they're the only ones I'd be touching. But priority is 3 Manchester City, followed by 1 or 2 Liverpool, followed by 1 Luton, and 1 Brentford. You could put Brentford ahead of Luton if you need it for double game week 6, for blank game week 26. But if you don't need it, I would put Luton ahead of Brentford because you can use him in the double game week 28. Ryan, any other players that you would prioritize or pick out, or any difference in order, Ryan?
So, I guess Haaland must have, without a question, probably. So yeah, he's like out of the screen. If you don't have him, you should just delete your FPL account and then just forget about it. Foden, I think I would put second just because of minutes. And then I would put Jota most likely as third. KDB, I would put fourth on that list just because of minutes again. I think Jota might get potentially more minutes than KDB, although Salah being back could potentially reduce Jota's minutes as well. So it's a very close one. It's just that KDB has the potential to go huge. Like he has that quality. And then so those are the top 4. And then after that, everything is up to you and what you want to do. Doty, I think he kind of makes sense because of the double in 28, potential chance of also a fixture in 29. Depending on FA Cup results. So it kind of makes sense as well. So I'll probably put him on that 5th. And then it's up to you whether you want to sign up to the Darwin Núñez experience. I hear they're selling tickets still. So whether you want to sign up for that, that is also an option as a second Liverpool player to get in. After that, I was hoping Lucian could sell me the Reguilon dream because I don't know what to do with Trent. So I had to find out whether I move Trent to a Reguilon, or do I move Trent to a single game week player? So that's currently where I'm at. But those are the others that I would prioritize.
So, Lucian, we'll go to you then before Tien. Any other order or list, or you want to big up Reguilon for us?
He was my 4-week player pick last week. I know I didn't make a short about it, but he was in my thread. I think Brentford for me, right? I'm just gonna keep things as simple as possible. Brentford are about set pieces. Whatever tactical open play thing you wanna analyze about them. We already know that Wisa and Mbomo are on the way back. So for me, it's just about like finding the Rico Henry in that squad because I do feel that Brentford rely quite a bit on their left if they're not going through Ivan Toney. And among all that chaos, right? I do believe that set pieces are king. If you don't want Reguilon, then Ethan Pinnock's long throws are definitely always a masterclass to behold if you like that kind of football. But honestly, if you are asking me in terms of priority, right, always go for net positive. I just feel that the players that we are so concerned with, right, are in so many different price brackets that I just feel that, I can't predict the future. I don't think anyone wants to claim that they can predict the future. So you are really just picking a player that you can hold reasonably for the next 4 game weeks, right? 25, oh, five, sorry. 25, 26, 27, 28, perhaps 29 if you're 50-50 on the free hitting thing. So I do believe that's the decision point. If let's say you are keeping them for 4 and you're going to free hit in 25, then you get a Luton player or something like that, or a Liverpool player. But if let's say you wanna try and survive 29, then you go for Brentford. Because obviously you have to sell liabilities, but still, I want to preach: go for moves that give you a net positive over the next 4 or the next 5. Don't just plan for 1 game week. So it's a given that buying any Man City player that has 90 minutes guaranteed is a net positive, and that's why Doku's not attractive. Um, so you don't have a lot of options left, right, in City. But for Liverpool, I do feel that Salah aside, if he doesn't get 90 this week, he'll get 90 next week. So you're gonna be doing the Salah move this week or next week anyway. So you might as well do it this week, even if he gets 120 minutes. There's still potential for double digits. But for everyone else, well, it really comes down to what kind of experience you want to have, right? Like Salah aside, literally no attacker, sorry, has guarantee of 90 minutes week in, week out. Perhaps Luis Diaz, but that's all I can write, because I would even argue that Jota could play on the left side, right? So um yeah, there's no telling. There is no telling, and since tactically Liverpool are still a mess anyway, it's yeah. I mean, all I can assume that without Trent, you're gonna have Salah as your main creative guy, and you just need to decide on who you feel is going to actually finish Salah's chances. Some of the chances that he creates. That's why I feel, at least, as a player coming back from injury, I trust Salah's creativity more than his acceleration to finish and all of that. So I'd say that 3 assists in the next in the double is very reasonable. But yeah, make net positive transfers that don't cost you a hit. That's all I keep it at.
And Tian, what would your thoughts on priorities be?
So I think, yeah, Haaland is top, no question about that. I really like Foden, so sort of like being nailed in the team now. A good price as well, easy to get compared to KDB. And yeah, Jota so similar to Ryan's. I think beyond that, the priority does change depending on what you are thinking of doing as well, in terms of like future game weeks 26, 28, and 29, particularly 29, in terms of like whether you free hit or not. Because if you are leaning toward trying to save the free hit and not playing it in 29, then you definitely want thinking about Brentford, right? You maybe try to put Tony in there instead of Darwin, Nunes, and Reguilon in there, because then they double, they don't play in 26, they don't play in 29. That's looking at that sort of block of fixture, then you've got potentially 2 more fixtures and a lot of other players. So uh, and then obviously Luton have the 2 doubles as well. So if you take that block of fixture, that's become a very good option. I think the Darwin experience is something that I think a lot of people will be falling for it. The closer to the deadline, the more people will be drawn to it, especially when we start getting leaks that he is starting. Which, I mean, most people would think that he's starting anyway, but just having that confirmation, and then the transfer will start picking up. And I think the tickets will be sold as quickly as the 200 million Powerball that we had recently in Australia. And that is big, right? You wanna take it to the jackpot, and got to be in it to win it, and I think I'll do it as well. But obviously, keeping in mind that he become a problem straight away with the Blank in 26, so make sure you somewhat have a plan about what you want to do with him, because you can potentially hold him for 27 playing Nottingham Forest, but then they're playing Man City in 29 and potentially having a Blank in 28 and potentially playing in 29 as well. So for me, it's very easy. Right? If I'm getting Darwin, it will be Solanke that I'm selling, and then I'm just reverting that move straight away in 28. That's it's simple. The move just make them sell for me. I'm just hoping that obviously that a 1 in 1 out. So I'm talking about the -8 before, right? It's basically I'm booking in a -8. So I'm really hoping that the jackpot, or at least I'm winning the second or third division to at least pay off that -8, and hopefully I get a good experience. Otherwise, he will just be firmly on my never buy again list again, which is fine. I'm happy to do that.
I thought Darwin was on your never buy again list.
Yeah, he still is. But it's just like occasionally, you wanna have that short term experience. Just like maybe I was wrong, maybe I'll try it again.
So
But it's very short term, like that.
Yeah, I have Darwin, and it's fine. It's fine. Are we then overlooking single game week players, especially those who play in game week 29? Now, that last part of the question is specifically for those who really don't want to or won't play the free hit in 29. Just count the fixtures up. If you've got a double in 25, a blank in 26, and a blank in 29, that equals the same as a player that plays all the game weeks, right? Just for my opinion on this one, in the last couple of seasons, I haven't attacked double game weeks, even small ones, and it always felt like it backfired, like it was a negative, like it really did hit me, and especially in a double game week where you've got Liverpool and Manchester City as 2 of the 4 teams. It kind of feels like if you're not having sort of 4 or 5 of those players, despite Liverpool blanking in 26, it does. I don't think it's overlooking single game week players. But like we mentioned about the bench boost way at the start of the show, you've got Arsenal travelling to Burnley, you've got Watkins going to Fulham and Diaby. And we've got Newcastle at home to Bournemouth. So, a lot of people sold Gordon because they were literally told he was injured from Eddie Howe. Like, literally, oh, he's out, yeah, he's bam, he plays 90 minutes. Mosquito. Oh, no, I missed it. Okay. You can't get it. But yeah, overlooking single game weeks. I'll also put on like the fixture ticker, and it's a tough one. If you're selling the likes of Saka, I as weird as it is now, I wouldn't really advise it if you don't have a proper plan set up. Like, not going all willy-nilly, but if you think we're overlooking single game weeks, who do you think we're overlooking, or do you think we should just sort of be going all in on this one? Ryan, we'll go for you on this one.
With single game, because it depends on who you selling. Like, again, Saka or Arsenal defense as well in general, I probably wouldn't sell. Even in Arsenal, there are certain single game makers that you could potentially sell. The likes of a Martin Odegaard to a Jota is not a bad move, I would say. Whereas Saka to a Jota, I wouldn't recommend. Even Saka to a KDB, I probably wouldn't recommend. Aston Villa and Watkins, that is I think that from a team value perspective, depending on how much value, because selling Watkins and trying to buy him back in 29 is not going to be easy, because of the amount of value you might have stored on him. So that is, again, you probably don't recommend selling there. Maybe so, like what TN is trying to do in terms of selling Solanke to Darwin, which I did last week as well. That's not as bad, because if you look at Solanke's past history, his general ceiling has been like 7 points, 8 points at best on a game week, whereas Watkins is capable of the 18-pointer in one specific week as well, which we've seen a couple of times already. And also the value you have stored on Solanke is significantly less compared to someone on a Watkins as well, when you try to sell and buy back. Palmer, we know what he's capable of. Probably one of the most owned midfielders in the game. And there's a question from K7 as well, whether selling him is like a net positive. I would think so. If you're selling to like a Foden, a KDB, Jota, I don't know. Jota, I'll let you all answer that. But a City player like Foden or KDB, selling Palmer, I don't mind it. But yeah, it depends on who you're buying and who you're selling for those specific situations. But those are the only few single game, because I think there are others that you could probably afford to lose and it wouldn't be too much of a problem. Newcastle you can sell, by the way. They're bad. They're very bad. Tian, go ahead.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think the a lot of people have made the mistakes in terms of like, they are selling good players in the lead up to the double. So people sold Saka last game week, people sold Watkins a week before. And people will be selling good player this game week as well. It's just the nature of being drawn to the double game week players. I think, yeah, personally, I would pay a lot of attention to good teams coming back into form as well, and Arsenal is definitely the team that has significantly improved in form, and Saka particularly, and the way they set up a lot of set pieces and stuff like that. So I would prioritize to getting back to Arsenal rather than going for the double game week players, because if you look at the next let's say it's the next 2 game weeks, right? If you so I can sell Trent to get a regular on, and so I get 2 games this week and 1 game next week. But then those 3 games are Liverpool, Man City away, and West Ham away. But if I get like a Gabriel, for example, I only get 2 games, right? But then it would be much better games, because you're playing Burnley this game week and Newcastle at home next week, and then even if you go look longer term as well. Now come back to the point I made earlier. Like if you are definitely not free hitting in 29, then it makes perfect sense to go for Reguilon. But if I'm open-minded and as I don't mind, I can chance it, because Arsenal still have a chance of not blanking in 29. But even if they do, I'm just gonna free hit, because I can see that their fixtures between now and 29 are so good that I think potentially they could outscore a lot of the double game week players as well. Oh yeah, he shouldn't. And Watkins is similarly, like he Aston Villa have really good fixture, not just this game week, but over the next few game weeks as well. That could easily outscore Tony. Even if Tony have an extra fixture than Watkins. So I think try not to get tunnel vision in just counting the number of fixtures, but look at what the fixtures are and the forms of the player, the form of the teams as well, and make that decision. Yeah.
And I'll also say that there's a lot of options going in, I think, with the injuries as well. So Trent being injured, I think, is a huge one, because people might go to a City defender, they might go to regular, and I think there's a lot of more options coming in on that one too, which is really good. Lucian, what are your thoughts? Are we overlooking single game week players?
I saw Cole Palmer last week, and I sold him for Diogo Jota actually, and for 90 minutes against Crystal Palace, I looked like a genius. Really, really, I meant that. No one in their right mind would have sold Cole Palmer given his returns, right? But the moment you see him playing the number 9, right, it was like that was it. The route to success was there. Anyway, that aside, common sense prevails in this particular scenario. And if you have a single game weeker that has form, has minutes, and has no competition, why bother with them, right? I mean, I feel like the essence of this question is targeting single week players that we can potentially buy this week, especially given Trent's injury. So I'd say Newcastle would be the only one I'd consider. But of course, you look at the Brentford, sorry, not the Brentford situation, the Ben Crellin situation, right? That we have on screen here. And you look at the four teams that play in 29: Villa, Burnley, Fulham, West Ham. And like out of these four, yes, um Brentford are definitely going to be attractive. So Ivan Toney is a given. I mean, the only problem really is trying to shoehorn him in, and that's just not attractive right now. So secondly, you are looking to hold on to Watkins, but um, for me, like buying a single game weeker now, right? Even if it's somebody like Brentford, and you want to choose between Villa, Burnley, Fulham, and West Ham, like you just go quiet, right? There is absolutely no reason to buy any of those four teams or Brentford even. Because if I went up to somebody and went, hey bro, go buy Regulon. He's got a double and then he's got 29. He looks at the double and he goes like, why do I want 4 points? You know? When
Not
I
even
when I
4.
yeah, right? So
-1 for
I
every
mean,
2 goals conceded.
yeah, exactly. So I'd say if there were single game week players that we want to buy, you just wait a week, have 2 free transfers next week. You know, as long as you have good bench cover for Trent, then just keep the game week. Like having 2 free transfers and a Trent Alexander-Arnold to sell, or maybe not, right? If he comes back faster than expected, you never know. You never know. So yeah, I'm perfectly happy with like just having the free transfer if you have good bench cover. There's talk in the chat now, right, about having a 4 million base price replacement, and there are quite a few options, right? I mean, Rob likes Van Hecke, um, Bradley may or may not play. So yeah, there are options everywhere. Potentially, if you're looking for base price bench cover, that would be the only single game week transfer I'd say we've not talked about.
Yeah, so some single game weekers, and here's the thing as well. And obviously, I don't mean this as a slide, but this will also really let us know more the engaged managers versus like the zombie teams. Like the zombie teams will keep Saka and Watkins and players like that because they don't. All casuals will keep them because they don't really look into double game weeks and single game weeks and blanks and all that lot. But there are some good players if we look at the single game week. So I do have double Brighton. I've got Estepinian and Van Hecke. That was to get me over game week 26 because in game week 26 they have Everton and game week 25 they have Sheffield United. So they've got a great run of fixtures. And even while I looked at Wolves players in the next from game week 26, but I also looked at some Brighton players. Like, look at Mitoma, how highly owned Mitoma was, and then obviously got injured. But he's back. He's 6.4 million, and he's about to play Sheffield, Everton, Fulham, and Forest before game week 29. So there are some single game weekers that could end up coming back to hit people, and Saka's hit me all season, but I think he's going to be hitting a lot of other people who sold him for likes of Diogo Jota because that's FPL and that's what Saka's done this season. Going on to then our penultimate chat on how are we dealing with blank game week 29. If you haven't already started the plan on looking at who is definitely playing and who's possibly playing, it's probably already late and you're going to be taking hits because you've got game week 25, 26, 27, 28, 20. You're going to have like, 5 free transfers left? And that's doing nothing about double game week 25 and nothing about blank game week 26. We talked about this last week, but obviously it's upon us now because game week 26 falls game week 25, and you have to also think about 29. Dealing with game week 26 blank, you should already have a plan. It's next game week, right? You can't be sat there, game week 25 is awesome. I've got triple City, triple Liverpool, triple Luton, a couple of Brentford. This is going to be amazing. And then you're crying because you're playing 6 players in game week 26. You should already have a plan for that. So I'll just slightly change the 26 question into how many players would you be comfortable fielding before you take hits? And Game Week 29 for me is just a free hit. I don't think there's any way about it. Unless we get that unlikely scenario of Arsenal playing against Chelsea, and you kept some Arsenal players, like you didn't sell Saka because he's in good form, or you kept Gabriel Saliba, Saka, you still got Palmer, you've got Porro still in your squad because Spurs playing that game, then you might look into just trying to play it and hold the free hit. I don't know what you're going to hold your free hit for. Maybe double game week 37, but it might not even be a good double game week and it might be small. But for me, game week 26, I'm likely fielding 10 players if they play without any more hits. But this is why I think when you're looking at hits and how few players can you go, I'll be playing like players against Sheffield United and players against Burnley and Everton and things like that. So I'm comfortable with 10. I think you don't have to start hitting until you get to 9. And then if you're hitting after that, you need to really be making sure you don't do any more hits until you basically your wild card. So I think dealing with 26, you should already have a plan. And I wouldn't feel comfortable fielding anything less than 9. I'd start to maybe look at hits to bring it in. In game week 29, it's either hits or it's free hit. I just don't see any other way. Ryan, how are you, or what do you suggest dealing with blank game week 26? Like, how many do you feel comfortable fielding? And game week 29?
So my team personally, as long as there are no injuries, I should be able to field 11 with a 1 free transfer. If you had, let's say, you can only field 10 players with the 1 free transfer, I don't mind fielding 10 players as long as you had your 7 attackers on the pitch. So, like, if you're missing out on a defender, I don't think it's needed to go and take a hit to get a defender out and bring a defender to play, because defenders are not getting points these days anyways. You're probably losing out on 3 points rather than getting those 2 points on the pitch. So I probably wouldn't do a hit for a defender unless... It's very hard to say that they'll play even in 29, because like Lucien just mentioned, right? Look at all the teams that we're talking about who play in 29 at the moment. Villa were the team that you would have targeted before all the injury crisis, and Moreno and Luka Dean now having to compete with each other. The other teams don't have the best of fixtures going ahead at the moment. So I don't know if I would do a hit for a defender. For an attacker, I might. But it depends on who you're actually going to bring in as an attacker. If you're going to bring in a Saka because you've sold him before and like you can now bring him in 26, I don't mind that. There is Wolves that play Sheffield in 26. I don't know if I have to hit for that though, but I think 10 players, if you can field minimum 10, is fine. If you have 9, then it depends on where you're losing, to be honest. If you're losing 2 attackers, I might take 1 hit at least to get an attacker. I think attackers will give you more points. Yeah, that's me.
Tien, how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I think you got to think about or try to predict what the field is going to be like. So how many players do most people around you, like the engaged managers, will have? And I think for 26, the number would be, more than 10 on average. Will be closer to 11, I think. So that is probably what you need to be aiming for, like between 10 and 11. But for 29, I think it will be different. I think for 29, the number will be a lot lower. So you could even get away with maybe like 8 or 9. So yes, and I make the same point again. Quality over quantity. Just because you've got 11 on the field, but you got like players that are half injured or don't even start games or play for really bad teams, and they don't really count, right? Whereas if you got the main big hitters and the key players, like the Arsenal players and Man City players, and then I think you'll be mostly fine. The other problem with 26 is that they are really good teams that you want to target, but they don't play in 26. So like Spurs, for example, some people will be debating whether they're selling Spurs player now this game week. Then of course, you have to wait until at least it's 27 to buy them back. Whereas, a lot of people will be like, thinking about selling Jota and Darwin and so on and so forth, but they can't get into Spurs player just yet. So in that case, maybe it's okay to just not selling the Liverpool players and playing with 10, then save that transfer to get into Spurs players in 27. It may be better because you have so few transfers, free transfer between then and 29. Like especially if you are planning for 29, then obviously after 26 you want to get as many Spurs players as possible, right? And keeping in mind that you need to have a transfer for Bournemouth as well. If you don't have Solanke, for example, then that's one book transfer already. Oh yeah, there's like only 3 free transfer or something between 27 and 29. So you want to use them wisely. So yeah, I agree. 10 be good if you can get to 10 with 3 transfers. Then yeah, just it's fine. I mean, sometimes you just gotta sacrifice one game week for the long term. Yeah.
Yeah. Lucian, what's your plan?
Sorry. Forgive me for being for living under a rock. That's the term. Because 26 did not feel like a blank game week for me until I realized how many Chelsea and Spurs players people have. Um, because I was actually thinking of trying to pick up Spurs players across the next few game weeks. I think Spurs will get players back. They'll get Son back. They'll get Madison back, and they'll really come to the fore with some beautiful fixtures coming up and game week 29, on the horizon. Uh, really, it's about who to sell. Like, from my perspective, I have no idea who to sell between my 3 Man City and 2 Liverpool players. It's frightening. Trying to let some of them go. Having said that, I do believe that 26 in the big picture, I still feel that you'll get a small red arrow having 10, and you will have a potential for a huge green arrow if you have 11. I'm just gonna keep it, you know, as obvious as possible in terms of drawing a line in the sand. Because sorry, you guys had such an elaborate discussion. I sincerely thought you guys were talking about the game week 29 blitz. So I was looking at, I was gonna buy Bournemouth, and I was gonna look at like I wanted to actually elaborate, right, on the coin curse, right? In the FA Cup round 6 fixture, it's likely going to be Forest against Man United. So if United win, then we will get Forest Luton. And if Luton win, we will get Man United against Sheffield United, which will be music to Quentin's ears because, you know, yeah, right? Everyone would love Rasmus Højlund. I mean, I would love Rasmus Højlund against Sheffield United. Really, really. I mean, the back line, the flanks, and all that. The no block, right? Højlund against the no block people. So, uh, yeah. That aside, I feel that 26. Yeah. I'm definitely still, having free hit as my primary strategy for 29. Simply because I do like, the teams that I've mentioned earlier, Villa, Fulham, West Ham. I would love to own them for a week. I do believe that those players are players I want genuinely for 1 week, and attacking the game week with those people alongside 3 Spurs players that perhaps I want to, jiggle and shuffle around a little bit, right? I mean, it's good for me too. It's good for me as well because like I get to hold on to my 2 Liverpool and 3 City players, and then I just go switch to Spurs for 1 week, and then I go back to like Liverpool and City again. Yeah, it's perfect for me. But for everyone else, yeah, I think buy Spurs now. I mean, sorry, buy Spurs after the blank. Sorry. Save the free transfer as I said earlier, and then buy Spurs after the blank.
Great. If you guys are liking the stream, by the way, if you leave a like and subscribe, that'd be great. Always forget to ask about anything like that. So yeah. So going on to our final point, and it's probably going to be like the briefest point, is you want a lollipop? I don't have a lollipop. Okay.
Chupa chups for me, Europe. Chupa chups.
What? I don't have a lollipop. Okay. Anyway, captaincy. I think this one's just a slam dunk Haaland one. Like, look, if Salah was fit, fully fit, I'm talking, then he would have potentially been like the big head turner here, right? People might have hit him in. Haaland just back from injury, but look, he's looking hot. He's looking fine. He's already back on the score sheet. The whole grandma passing away thing might play a part in it, but I'm not. It's just Haaland and Salah. Like, there's those two. We've talked about this many times before, and the key component is trust. And I think those are the two players with this double game week that you trust. I don't trust anyone from those four teams like I do these guys. Not even Jota, who might do really well. Darwin, who is hit and miss, usually missing. Kevin De Bruyne, issue maybe with minutes. I can't look past Haaland triple captain. I think we've all triple captain Haaland. Is that right? Have we all got the triple captain on this week? And is it all on
I haven't
Haaland?
activated, but yeah.
And there's no better week. 2 home games, the fine in the Champions League. It's right in front of your face. It's not one of them where, oh, if I don't do it this time. Look, I was looking a lot into Solanke, and again, it came down to trust. And the fact that it's Erling Haaland, who probably this game week is going to be over the percentages as well, that if you don't triple captain, it might not be worth anything to you. So I just think that he is easily the triple captain choice. 2 home games, they're right in front of your face. You know, the only thing that might put you off as well is that Brentford low block that kept Haaland quiet to just an assist, where Foden got a hat-trick. But they're a different beast at home as well, Manchester City. Chelsea can leak goals for fun. You don't know what Chelsea side's going to turn up. Brentford are going to be just sitting back and letting the pressure. I would have preferred Salah if he was fit, but he's not. And it's right here, it's right now. You know what you're getting. You don't have to be like, oh, I'll wait till 34 or 37. Who knows what might happen? You might have missed your opportunity. So I don't think it's just captaincy this week. I think triple captain Haaland is just a slam dunk. Like, it's what Lucian mentioned earlier about just the KISS strategy, right? Keep it simple, stupid. You've got a triple captain opportunity for Haaland in a small double game week where he has 2 home fixtures against teams that concede. I can't look past him. And it's one of them where if you do look past him and go for a punt on Jota or Darwin or something like that, it could massively backfire because it's not 1 game, it's 2. And if he goes crazy in both of those games and people triple captain him, that's, I don't want to say it's season over, but if you're like 500k and you don't triple captain or even captain Haaland and he goes crazy, how are you going to get that back? I'm not 100% sure. Ryan, any other thoughts on captaincy?
So there are a few who in the chat who have used their triple captaincy already. So in that specific case, just captain Haaland, because even if you don't triple captain him, you're probably losing out 50% EO extra, which is what? I'm forgetting the math. 0.3 maybe of his points, if I do that correctly. I don't know. But you're not missing out too much. You at best, what we think a successful triple captain will be 20 points. On a game week, so 60 points. So at best, okay, 20 points is a huge thing to miss out on. But you can probably at least you'll captain him and get that 40 points instead of not captain him and then he just goes and smashes 60 for everyone else and you're just putting the armband on someone else and they just get you like 4 or something. So don't be different for the sake of being different. The reason everyone's putting the triple captaincy on him is he is the best captaincy option this week. Without a question, unless for some reason Pep comes and says he's been given personal leave due to personal reasons, because of funeral that he has attended the funeral and whatnot. But yeah, he is the best captaincy option. So just put it on him and just enjoy the points.
Yeah, if Solanke was this game week with the double,
even then I'm captain Haaland.
It would have been closer for me. And I just think holding on, if we know Haaland's going to play, holding on for game week 28 for a team I don't fully trust, despite the fixtures, it's just easy. Jen, any thoughts on captaincy?
Yeah, same. So the triple captain. So people that have used triple captain, then just go back to see how many points you got for that, because basically it's the extra set of point, right, from that player. Because normally you triple captain someone who you would captain anyway, right, for that game week. So instead of getting twice a point, you get 3 times a point. So, so if you got something like 10 points from your triple captain, earlier, then I think, basically you're losing out from Haaland about 10 points. Because, he would get 20 points, you lose out about 10 points, which is not the end of the world. But yeah, what would be the end of the world is if you decide to go against him altogether. Like, some people will still not own Haaland, right? So that'll be minus 60 points if he does get 20. Or just captaining him. So I'm predicting he ought to be around 200%, maybe just over or under, depending on the rank tier. So basically, captaining him just neutralize it. Basically, you don't gain, but you don't lose. And then the triple captainer will gain that sort of 100% of his point. But yeah, that's it. I think it keep it simple. The trust is a big thing for me. As I agree completely with you, Rob. It's like when Haaland score, everyone will be like, of course he scored. But then when he captains someone else and he's like hoping that they will do something within that 90 minutes or 180 minutes or whatever, it's like why putting yourself into the stress for no good reason. And he can actually point out all the cons of any other alternative. It is like Foden, you would think that he will get good minutes, but then depending on where he plays, like if he plays more on the right, then he's no good, right? KDB got the minutes thing. Jota and Darwin Núñez, you got sort of that unpredictability in terms of how they set up and they don't have that caliber of sort of like consistent finishing and stuff like that as well. So yeah, it just have that comfort of putting on someone that he can trust, that if he doesn't return, it's gonna be something like really unexpected, right? Whereas for most others, it's the other way around. So yeah, I think keep it simple and just do it and get it out of the way. If for whatever reason, obviously you can't control the outcome, right? Of course, anything can happen on the pitch. He could get injured after the first 10 minutes and everyone will be like, why did you tell me to captain Haaland? I was like, you have no control over that sort of thing. And it's just like, you just gotta, you're playing the prediction game, right? You predict what's gonna happen in the future, but of course, anything can happen.
And in terms of his minutes, he did the 19 minutes straight away on his comeback from Burnley, and then he's done 85 minutes for 5 points, 90 minutes for 13 points with his 2 goals against Everton, and then he just did 90 minutes away in the Champions League. So people, you might counter-argue that and say, well, he's just done 90-90, how's he going to do 90? But he's one of the weird ones where he's the star at Man City who doesn't often get rotated out. And people say with this kind of injury he's had before, it's a kind of injury, not like a hamstring that can go again like that, right? It's like it's the bone and it's fixed and it's fine. So I don't think he'll lose a lot of minutes, which obviously is a big pull. And he's just a machine. Like I can't see. Lucian, can you see any points against him, or it's just a simple Haaland move?
Robots don't have bones. But yeah, What was this? I was gonna say? I had a point. Hold up. Okay, now, no points against Haaland, but I would like to say, right, that you know how Rob, you were saying earlier that you're not supposed to compare the triple captain in isolation against the bench boost. So you know, if you know people like us, we are planning to play the triple captainship. If you have not played the triple captainship, you really should be playing the triple captainship now. Yeah, you know, on somebody you trust. Like honestly, if you triple captain KDB, I wouldn't blame you. I'd still, you know, be like, yeah, you know, there is some merit to that. Anyway, that aside, yes, what I wanted to say is, um, so if you have played your triple captain already, and I am just gonna push back against Tien's point that says that you know you are triple cap, you're gonna just normal cap Haaland to neutralize the threat of the triple captain. Actually, I feel that it's more of fulfilling the prophecy of your triple captain decision earlier in the season. You know, because we already knew, right? The moment City Brentford got postponed before the season even started, that you know we knew that this was gonna drop somewhere, and we were gonna slam that triple captain the moment we knew where it was gonna drop. So if you had used your triple captain somewhere earlier, right? Basically, the plan is to triple captain early and then normal captain now. And the decision is, you know, I mean, if you had a great triple captain earlier in the season, great. You know, I'd congratulate you, right? So the real benchmark is whether that this Haaland score is going to beat your triple captain score back then. So you know, don't sweat it. Just fulfill your prophecy so that you can at least make those two decisions like properly. Where you know you went like, oh, I triple captain somebody else early. I had 20 points. Haaland now 20 points. It's okay. No biggie. You know. So we just live and move on. But you know, like it's almost like a responsibility for you to cap Haaland because you used your triple captain earlier. Yeah, because otherwise, you know, if you did not use it, you would have used it now. I say that.
Yep. Great. All right. So that's going to be it before my daughter runs away. Hope everyone has a good double game week. Try not to take too many hits. Keep your eyes out for those early Liverpool leaks for the double game week. Thanks for joining us, guys. Any likes and subscribes will be absolutely fantastic.